on WebcastOneLive.com, The Legislative Hour with your hosts, Art Smith and Kevin Hall.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Iowa Legislative Hour, powered by Webcast One Live. I am your host, Kevin Hall, along with my esteemed co-host, Art Smith, who thankfully we won't be seeing this week, but you'll be able to hear him.
I hope you can hear me. This is so unfair.
This is your punishment. You shaved the goatee after 30 years. 30 years.
I know.
And so you'll just be the voice from beyond for today's show.
I guess. We'll have to cope with that.
Brad, what do you think? Is it better off not having... Of course, you can see him in the studio, but our viewers won't have to look at him.
He looks very good. Very good.
Our guest this week, State Senator Brad Zahn from Urbandale and State Representative Jake Heifel from Johnston. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good to be with you again.
Brad, let's talk first off about the Board of Regents nominees. Of course, you've kind of been in the middle of this whole discussion because you were very vocal about your opposition initially to the Regents nominees. Just to backtrack and remind people of what went on with that, tell us why initially you were opposed to Governor Branstad's nominees, Robert Kramer and Craig Lang, when they were first nominated.
Well, first of all, I've kind of been known over the years to be very critical of the Board of Regents, in particular the nominees of both the Vilsack, the Culver, and, of course, Governor Branstad. Mm-hmm. I am scheduled to meet with Governor Branstad here, I think, when he gets back from China, and kind of have a conversation about what my frustrations are. Listen, I am so glad Governor Branstad is our governor. I think he's got great intentions, and it had nothing to do with Governor Branstad per se. My frustration was more, I don't think that the Board of Regents are listening to the parents and students that are struggling to make their tuition payments and their student activity fees. You know, we've got the largest student debt in the state of Iowa for our students that are graduating out of these universities, and that's of concern. And full disclosure, I'm a parent. I've got a son that's going to be transferring to the University of Iowa that currently is at the University of Northern Iowa, and we have great institutions, but just really frustrated. I guess it was miscommunicated, probably my fault, that I said I don't want wealthy people on there. That's not true. I want business people on those boards, just kind of some more average ordinary. It seemed to be a trend, is that it's more of a political insider's appointment. And I was obviously corrected by several people that, listen, it wasn't big donors. I mean, and I said on the Senate floor, you know, Mr. Kramer was, and I didn't know this at the time, was someone that did not support Governor Branstad in the primary.
Right. He was a big
donor. I understand Craig Lang is not a huge donor as well. The other doctor, I did vote against him for the same reasons, but and he has made some large contributions. And it didn't matter if he was Democrat or Republican to me. So with that said, you know, I ended up supporting Mr. Kramer. He is a constituent of mine. I've known Mr. Kramer for a long time. I didn't do a switch all. When I did vote against all of them in the Education Committee, I said to the press, listen, I reserve my right to change my opinion. It was more of a symbolic gesture or vote that I did. And I do believe he had the talents that we needed to in the construction projects that are going on. There is over $1 billion worth of construction contracts they're going to be awarded. So I thought his expertise would be there. I did not think it was right that there was a litmus test for any of our Board of Regents, which there was based on the debate that went on that night with Mr. Kramer. In regards to Mr. Lang, you know, I thank him for his service that he did. He was there. He's been there 6 years, and what I've seen in 6 years is increase in enrollment. I was very frustrated and stated that when we interviewed him in the Education Committee about the tuition set aside. I don't agree with what the Regents did, that, hey, listen, we'll shut down tuition set aside, when they heard from so many Iowans that were upset about that. But by the way, we want $39 million if we do shut that down. So they decided to do this. Well, what they really should have done is drop the tuition 20%, which has been overcharged to the parents and students that are out there. I didn't think he did a very good job in the interview. You know, I'm sure he would tell you that I could have done some things differently. And I just thought it's time for a change, get some new blood in there, and based on that past performance. And I would point to all the Board of Regents. that if you are a parent or a student, you know, one, that the tuition has skyrocketed, but the other thing is these student activity fees are out of control. And so that's why I did what I did. It was not personal. And of course, the physician for Fort Dodge, I would say the same thing. He did a terrible job of interviewing, and quite frankly, he was very arrogant. And I just thought, I don't want someone like that as our Board of Regents.
And then when it came up for the vote, I believe it was Wednesday, the physician was confirmed by the Senate.
That's correct.
The two Republicans, Craig Lang and Bob Kramer, were rejected by the Senate for really partisan issues. I mean, there were some Democrat senators who made it pretty clear their objection to Bob Kramer based mainly on the fact that he believes in one man, one woman marriage.
Right. And that is correct. And Senator Hogue got on the floor and lectured us all about that. And then there was others that denied that. And the other thing that I want to state is when it was Craig Lang's nomination, when the process of the vote took place, one of the senators called Rule 23. And if your listeners are not familiar with Rule 23, Rule 23 is when the vote gets locked down and they ask anyone that has not posted their vote yet to yell out one way or the other, and if you're not there, they hunt you down and fine you. The State Patrol does. I will have to tell you this, because I do have admiration for Governor Branstad, and this is the first time I've said this publicly, that I was following the board. Obviously, it goes in alphabetical order. I'm Zahn, so I'm one of the last people. I was watching that board to see what was going on. If it came down to if I had to vote to put him in, if I was a deciding vote, I will have to tell you, I would have sided with Governor Branstad and I would have voted in his favor, but he was way far behind.
Right.
He was 4 down before it even came to me. So, but I just want to clear that up, that I've been asked that by a lot of people. If I would have been the deciding vote, would I have voted for Mr. Lang? Yes, I reluctantly would not. I would have. But I would have done it more just as a favor to Governor Branstad.
And Senate Minority Leader Bill Dix had a press conference earlier this morning. He was not happy at all with the partisan nature of this vote. We have a little clip of Senator Dix speaking this morning about the Board of Regents votes.
Give me a minute on that, Kevin.
Okay.
I was fixing
we'll listen
something.
to that in just a minute. Art, go ahead.
So I guess with all that said, what happens now? I mean, is Craig Lang locked out of the committee room?
I am told that once they're voted down, they are not eligible for an interim appointment. I really haven't checked that out, but I've been told that's true. It really is going to be the governor is going to probably come up with some more names, is my guess. He'll probably do an interim appointment, which means it'll take Senate vote of confidence, next session
in 2014.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
Right.
So he probably won't make that recommendation or he won't make that appointment until after the session ends?
That's correct. It
Okay.
would be an interim appointment.
Okay.
Jake, you're in the House, so you don't get to really have a say in this, but what is your take on what went down in the Senate this week?
Actually, I went over and sat by Brad during the entire vote. I went to talk to him and Senator Whitford, and I will tell you something. Robert Kramer is one of the best people I could possibly imagine to be that job. I really do believe he would have done a great job there, because he's one of those people, whatever he does, he will succeed at. And I like him as a person. I really believe that we wish we could have stayed out of all the other stuff. They just hammered him on stuff that he can't even vote on. The issue of gay marriage and straight marriage has absolutely nothing to do with the Board of Regents.
Hey, Brad, this is a litmus test based on ideological grounds. I mean, it seems to me like this is a fairly dangerous precedent to be setting in the state Senate to base whether or not somebody should be on the Board of Regents based on your religious beliefs or your sex. I mean, it's pretty clear in the Iowa Code you cannot discriminate against a potential appointee based on those issues, but it seems pretty clear that is absolutely what the Senate Democrats did.
Well, there's certainly one member of the Senate Democratic Party. That's all he talked about. And so it's really unfortunate that happened.
Let's take a listen to Senate Republican leader Bill Dix and what he had to say earlier today.
Thanks to suggestions that I've seen in Washington, the expectation that Governor Branstad will do an extensive search with respect to trying to find good people. One of the things when it does become partisan like this, Governor Branstad, unfortunately, it makes it more difficult.
And we're having some technical issues with that, so we'll try to check in with that sound clip a little bit earlier. But basically, he was just talking about how hyper partisan things have gotten in Washington D.C., and it now seems to be going on here in the state of Iowa, whereas everything gets determined on which party you belong to, or what your ideological base is, not your actual qualifications for the job.
Let me tell you what I'm scared about. When they turned him down and embarrassed Robert Kramer. And I'm not sure what I would have done if I was sitting in Brad's shoes on Lang. I probably would have been following Brad's shoes, actually, to be honest with you. But I will tell you something, is that when you can't approve the governor's appointees, I'm scared about property tax relief. I'm scared about income tax relief that the House shot over already. That means we got to compromise anything this year, or are they just going to say no to everything we do? So they might just be the no chamber, everything we possibly do. That scares me. If they're saying no on this, what are they going to say no on in the future?
Right. Excellent point. We have a new guest in the studio, Representative John Landon from Ankeny. Representative, welcome.
Thank you.
You want to get close up to the mic there. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your district, and some of your background, since this is your first time on the program.
Sure. Well, I'm honored to represent House District 37. It's a new district. Ankeny has grown over 50,000 people now in total population numbers. And so the community has been split basically down the center of the community, and I represent the north half. Kevin Kester represents House District 38 to the south. This is my first year, of course, serving in the House. I'm a Republican, and my background has been in business. Reason that I ran for this office was property tax relief. I felt that what I had seen happen in the State House in 08, 09, and 10, with property taxes up over 30% during that time period, was not only unacceptable, it was completely unbearable as a citizen.
Very glad to have you on the show. Let's talk a little bit about property tax reform, because this is an issue that's been bandied about in the legislature for the past few years. Is anything going to get accomplished this year on this? We'll start with you, Representative Landon.
Well, we passed comprehensive reform, and I feel that for the work that we've done through the Ways and Means Committee, that we've got a very good proposal. I think that we should have large bipartisan support for it. There's a lot of different ways to look at this issue, but who doesn't agree that property taxes are too high in the state of Iowa, that by ranked number 9th on a list of 10 of states to avoid, to retire in, to have businesses in, to raise your family here? How do we think that we're going to tax ourselves into prosperity?
Brad, your thoughts on property tax reform? Of course, it all depends on the Democrat-controlled Senate and what can get passed and what can't.
I just did a show yesterday with Senator Doxler, and he mentioned that he still thinks it's a live round, and it's something that they will be rolling out something. We have not taken a vote on that this year. Of course, the House has, but I'm 50-50. Think we're going to get this done. We're getting down to the end here where you got education reform, which is something that is in conference committee, and the governor's got his priorities with income tax and some of the other things that are out there. Medicaid's a big one. So I don't know that we're going to have enough time to do it.
I actually had the privilege of running the property tax bill at a subcommittee and in the committee. So right now it's on the blue count. We will be debating it Monday or Tuesday. And I will tell you something, if they can't compromise on our property tax bill or the governor's, they are way far to the left, because this is a very, very modest approach, because most of us in the House, we wanted a lot more than we're going to get. This is a 2% cap on the growth and probably about $300 million. But I'll tell you one thing, if the plan we want to shoot over originally, we know it was ever going to happen, it was a lot more than that. But if they can't compromise on this, I don't know how much lower we can possibly go to have real relief.
So gentlemen, how much negative reaction do you think we're getting from cities and other government entities?
Really shouldn't be getting any. We backfill losses to any particular city, and I think that they shouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
A lot of these cities need to tighten their belts a little bit, especially the ones that are losing population, and sometimes the bigger cities too are overspending.
Well, I'm getting some backlash from the city of Urbandale.
Right.
We had our forum a couple days ago. The mayor was there, and I reminded the mayor that even though he dropped the tax rate 10 cents per thousand, is that the rollback far outweighs that 10 cents. So it is a tax increase on Iowans if we do nothing based on what the rollback's doing. The city of Urbandale is giving me some different figures on the 2 and the 4% cap. They're concerned about it. Obviously, all the cities are concerned. I think in the end, they're going to come out against this bill. Whatever the House does, they'll probably be neutral or favoring the Senate bill. But the fact of the matter is we have to do something. These property taxes are out of control, and all you have to do is door knock about 10 houses, and about 9 out of 10 houses, people are saying, hey, listen, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to do anything with the residential, which I think is something that we do. I mean, we do in a way. Obviously, the end result is we don't want to transfer, the liability onto residential properties if we cut commercials. So.
And frankly, a lot of legislators ran on this issue. I mean, this is not something that just suddenly came up during the session. This has been a big deal to Iowans for quite some time now.
This has been run, all the campaigns that were run by the Democrats as well as the Republicans, at least on the Senate side, all talked about reform of property tax.
Well, you're listening to the Iowa Legislative Hour. This is Art Smith and Kevin Hall, and we'll be back with more exciting conversation about the goings-on in the Iowa legislature in just a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. Now, live on WebcastOneLive.com, the Legislative Hour with your hosts, Art Smith and Kevin Hall.
And we are back on the Iowa Legislative Hour. Kevin Hall along with Art Smith edging his way into the picture.
Just to prove I'm really here.
You looked a lot better a few minutes ago when we couldn't see you. I'm kidding.
I think I'm going to go home now. All right.
Well, it's been a busy week up at the Capitol. A tax plan has been offered by Senator Randy Feenstra, Republican from Hull, and Senator Zahn, you are a co-sponsor of that legislation. Now, basically, it's kind of a 3-year step. What it provides 5% income tax reduction in the first year, 10% in the next year, 15% in the third year. And the estimation is that this will save the average Iowa taxpayer $360 in 2014, $517 in 2015. Now, can you explain to us why? Obviously, it sounds like a great bill to me, but we'll let you explain why you signed on to it.
It's a start. it's a start. We are in an environment in the state of Iowa. We have, first of all, a lot of people that are moving out of the state of Iowa, mostly are retirees, because of our income tax climate that we have. What this does is just give Iowans a choice. This is something that Senator Feenstra worked with the governor's office. This is something that I assume that the House that has something pretty darn close to it. And it just gives people a choice. You could get all the deductions and stay where you're at, or you could go to a flat tax, and it's phased in over 3 years. But you get to make that choice. But once you make that choice, you're locked in to what that is. So it really will help out a lot of Iowans, lower that tax burden. I mean, the bottom line here is we've overtaxed all Iowans this year, as we are always overtaxed. But this year our revenues are so high, and I think this is the thing we need to look at.
Representative Heifel, there's been all sorts of different discussions about what to do with the overtaxing. Should we give tax credits and whatnot? What is your stance? I mean, what do you think would be the ideal situation?
Ideal situation, I really do believe, would be income tax reform. Whether it be as much as I want or as much as we're going to get, that's the best way to put money back in the people's pockets. Yes, I love property tax. I ran on that issue. But if you want the average voter, they see that on their bill. They'll see the fact that we cut their income tax and more in their pocket. They have a choice to pay, with a flat income tax like our bill has, or they can pay what they're doing now. That really helps out the middle class family. Our bill, but people between the income of $30,000 and $60,000, which is middle class in most places, helps out 67% of those people. So that is why I like our bill. It helps the people out that are going to vote for us, show them that we are working hard to use every tax dollar we possibly can and give it back to them.
Representative Landon, same question, income tax reform.
This bill is the House proposal is a great bill. It offers taxpayers the option of using the system as we know it today, or figuring their tax at 4.5%. with one standard deduction for everybody. If I remember right, it's about $7,250. And at 4.5%, that will save somewhere around $300 to $400 million for Iowa taxpayers. 40% of all Iowa taxpayers will be able to benefit from using this system. This is a great opportunity to bring some meaningful reform and a great dialogue to the table, but we really need to get this done for Iowans.
And Senator Zahn, I know you don't want to reveal too many details, but you have another vision for income tax reform.
Well, my vision is no income tax in the state of Iowa. Where you look at the states that are their economy is just thriving. Those are states that do not have an income tax. And like I mentioned, there's a lot of retirees that they move out of the state. You always talk to Hy-Vee and the store directors and some of the executives there at John Deere. They don't live in the state of Iowa anymore because of the tax climate on their pensions. Mine is just simple, no income tax. Right now, I'm working through the details. I will be filing something next week. I got something brought to my attention that I want to look a little bit closer into. But mine's just a straight no income tax, and then I moved the sales tax at 11%.
Jake, you wanted to...
I think a few weeks ago I talked about what my plan was this summer is I philosophically believe you should never tax your retirement, your savings, anything like that. Right now we tax pension plans, 401k, stock. And under the January 1st, our capital gains tax jumped another 8%. So I believe this summer I'm going to file a bill to exempt all of that because right now it's very personal in my district, in our district together. People are leaving the state. I have donors of mine that support me but actually don't live here, which is so they can't vote for you, but they have a yard sign for you and everything else because they move in Nebraska, Florida, wherever else. I want them to live here. I want them to pay taxes here, and because they've been here their whole life. Why should they leave now? So I'm working on that this summer.
I guess the big question is, are the Democrats going to go along with any of these reforms? I mean, there's been a lot offered, tax credits, all sorts of things offered. Is any of this, does it have a chance of getting passed?
Well, the answer to the question is no, because of the Senate Democrats. We passed out an earned income tax credit, which is, I voted for it because I'm all for lowering everyone's tax burden. This is for lower income people, which is, I think, a good thing to give them a, kind of a hand up. And so I don't think anything is going to come out.
One condition, the Senate Democrats want Medicaid expansion more than anything else at the table. If we ever get anything, we're going to have to give them Medicaid for the Obamacare expansion, for Medicaid if we get anything. So that's my prediction. If we ever get anything, it's because of that.
Well, let's talk. That's a great segue into the next topic of discussion with health care reform. Governor Branstad offered his Healthy Iowa plan late last week. Did it sort of quietly. I know we've had a week or so to digest it, and it's more of a state-based plan. Whereas the Democrats seem to go, they're all in with the federal government funding Medicaid expansion for the state of Iowa. We'll just kind of go down the row here. Your thoughts on Governor Branstad's Healthy Iowa plan? What you know of it, as opposed to the Medicaid expansion that the Senate Democrats are pushing.
Well, when you take a look at the information that's been passed around, that why wouldn't we do Medicaid expansion? It's free. It is far from free. It couldn't be further from free.
Right.
Since the year 2000, the Medicaid enrollment in Iowa has gone up 88%, and the cost of that has gone up 266%. And this is at a time when we're not really seeing much for growth in population.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when we bring in another 85, somewhere around 60 to 80,000 Iowans that are Medicaid eligible right now, but are not enrolled in that program, and yet they have to be enrolled before we can start the expansion? And at that point, when we enroll them with a new state-funded health insurance policy, then we can go ahead about the matter of the Obamacare or Medicaid expansion, as it's talked about, and add another 150,000. And that expansion is to be covered by the federal government for 2 years, and then it starts dropping. And
3 years, I believe. 3 years, and then it's 3
3
years, and then goes down to 3 years at 100%, and then gradually down to 90%. Yeah.
Yep. But every program that the federal government operates that way continues to drop. It doesn't stop at 90% forever. And I think that those are issues that we'd like to have some degree of comfort and assurance of what this is going to be for Iowans in the future. It's fine to develop a program for today, but what does it do for our kids? What does it really obligate them to do?
And Governor Branstad says, the federal government, their budget is in a mess. We can't rely on them to fund this the way they're promising to.
Right. Governor Branstad has shown more leadership of any governor in the United States of America on this particular issue. This is a very, very important issue for the citizens of the state of Iowa. I am so proud of him that he has not weakened on his position. A lot of Republican governors have. Absolutely, and we are reminded about that on the Senate floor of the so-called conservative governors throughout the United States that have caved on this issue. I am so proud of him for what he's done here. He's thought outside the box. Is his plan perfect? No, it's not perfect. Okay, but it's a start to negotiate, and it's controlled by us Iowans. As John mentioned, this is our money. Everyone that listens, and it's the taxpayers. It doesn't matter if it comes from the federal government, the state government. And I can tell you, I am not going to support Medicaid expansion, and I am a stick with the governor as long as this takes. But I do believe there will be some negotiations that will happen. It is something that we do have to take care of by the end of the year. It would not surprise me that we get called back in a special session after we get out of there, because it's a very complicated issue, and so very, very happy of Governor Branstad.
And Governor Branstad's plan, it would cover people up to 100% of poverty. The Democrats would cover up to 138% of poverty. And then the people who would kind of be caught in between in Branstad's plan, he's put in there incentives to keep yourself healthy, where you can get the money back. I mean, Jake, your thoughts on Governor Branstad's plan?
Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds and Governor Branstad came to our caucus yesterday and thanked us for, we're getting a lot of heat, as you can probably imagine, for not expanding Medicaid. But I'm echo what Brad said. I'm just so happy we actually stood tall all the way through this year, and I bet you we'll come back at the end of it. Actually, last Thursday, because we had to do it last Thursday before the funnel, so we got the Medicaid and appropriations. We did a strike after amendment and put his plan in there before the funnel deadline, and I am willing to bet we will come back later on, because this is not going to get solved. That's all they want. All Democrats want is Medicaid expansion. But we actually, during the debate, we got called cowards for not expanding Medicaid by some of the Democrats, and it was not pretty. It was a little heated appropriations, and they just, they think everything's free in life, and it's hard for them to understand where we come from. We go, we can't pay for anything we're doing now. We're $16-17 trillion in debt, and we believe we know better here in Iowa than the federal government does. For example, how many times you go see your federal congressman or senator in there? Yes, they do great here, but I get people come see me every single day. They can call me, email me. We're right here. It's way better to have it closer to the problem than farther away from the problem.
Senators, on Tuesday, I think Senator Jack Hatch from Des Moines stepped up and criticized some flyers that supposedly, I don't even know where the flyers came from or what the deal was. What was the mood in the Senate during that conversation?
Well, first of all, it was one-sided. Senator Hatch, the governor puts out a flyer once a week down the cafeteria, just kind of tell him what he's up to. To try to communicate to the citizens of the state of Iowa what his Healthy Iowa plan.
So this wasn't some devious little
anonymous
flyer.
It was from the Branstad administration.
Okay.
First of all, you have to recognize that Senator Hatch is thinking about running for governor.
Right.
I think a lot of what his conversation was on the Senate floor wasn't fair, and certainly was more showboating than anything.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was interesting because it touched on a few different things that the Branstad administration is working on, and it had a chart on there, side-by-side plan of Governor Branstad's Healthy Iowa plan and the Medicaid expansion plan, and Jack Hatch gets up there. I think it was yesterday morning,
and
it was just a few minutes, literally, into the session starting. I mean, basically there was
it's personal points.
The national, national anthem, and then Jack Hatch launches into this attack on the governor. And he actually said at one point that Governor Branstad doesn't know anything about health care.
Yeah. I almost called,
which is
he was the president of the 15th largest medical school in the entire nation for 6 years.
I was this close to calling point of order yesterday because I've done that before to defend Governor Branstad. But he said this is typical of what happens sometimes, and certainly very typical of Senator Hatch.
And Hatch went on. He was even criticizing the governor for going to China next week on a trade mission, which, the legislative session is going on, but there's not much he can do during the legislative session other than, encourage people to support his legislation. Well, he's out trying to get jobs for Iowans.
And I could remind him, the same could be said about, I remember when Governor Vilsack took off for a long time at the very end of the session, and Culver. He's trying to do the business of the state of Iowa and promote Iowa, and we're going to be fine without him. So he's got his staff there. Whenever you negotiate, you don't have Governor Branstad in every meeting. You've got his staff there.
Right. Speaker Paulson said this morning during that press conference with Senator Dix that he feels like there's a very strong chance that the legislative session will not be done at May 4th when it's supposed
3rd.
to end. Yeah, he did not sound very optimistic at all. Representative Landon, what do you think? Are you guys going to be working overtime this year?
A lot depends on this education bill and how this negotiation goes. If we can work out this compromise right here, right now, I think that we've got a chance to start moving issues. But if we can't, and this goes nowhere in the Senate, then all bets are off.
Senator Zahn.
I think what we're going to do is we'll get through as much as we can, and we'll go through the conference committees. Then they're going to send us all home, and we'll be called back when there's a deal made.
And Jake, same question.
I agree. I think we'll get education because we just put them in a big hole. We just said, here's the money, take our policy. We'll get education, and I think we'll come back for property tax and especially healthcare. I don't think healthcare, we're not even in the same league. We're so far left, so far right that I think we'll come back maybe even later than July, like just for that one issue. Everything else will be done, but.
Very interesting. You are watching the Iowa Legislative Hour on Webcast One Live. If you'd like to join the conversation, the number is 855-244-0077. Representative John Landon, Representative Jake Heifel, and State Senator Brad Zahn are our guests this week. We'll be back with more of the Iowa Legislative Hour in just a moment.
Leach, owner and general
manager.
Let me tell
you what Jack had.
I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician.
From Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
you know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
And welcome back to the Iowa Legislative Hour. Kevin Hall, along with the faceless Art Smith.
Hello. Still here.
And our guests this week, Representative John Landon of Ankeny, Representative Jake Heifel of Johnston, and the esteemed state senator from Urbandale, Brad Zahn.
Good to be with you.
It's great to have you guys here. We were talking about healthcare expansion, Medicaid expansion before the break. We want to get to education reform because that's a major topic going on at the Capitol right now. But Representative Landon, you wanted to make a comment about this whole healthcare situation.
In this whole debate, we seem to be focused on subsidized health insurance policies and the illusion that that somehow changes a person's health. People have to be responsible for their own health, and they're going to have to take that initiative themselves to get healthy. And an insurance policy really does very little to accommodate that. Mm-hmm. Yes, it accommodates them to go see a doctor. But why aren't they going to go see the doctor right now? There's plenty of opportunity for that to happen, and it's not happening. So how is this whole new program going to, what are the results? Where is the proof that this is really going to solve the issue of Iowans' health needs?
And, you know, that's something Governor Branstad talks about repeatedly. He wants the state of Iowa to be the healthiest state in the nation, and that's part of why he put some incentives in his Healthy Iowa plan to, you know, encourage people to take ownership of their own health situation.
But the fact is that there's people that are just not going to bother.
Right.
And I'll also say, go ahead, sorry.
No, they're just not going to do it.
Governor Branstad leads by example. Have you guys seen him lately? He's probably lost 30, 40 pounds.
Wow.
I talked to him yesterday. I go, hey, Governor, he came talk to our caucus, and he's working out every day, and he's eating right. He's like, I'm leading by example. I go, that's the way government should do it.
The guy, we were talking about this in the break, and you see him at parades. And this is a guy who's lived through a heart attack. Yeah. He's, 64, somewhere around there. I mean, shaking every hand, zigzagging across the street. I worked on his campaign, full disclosure, in 2010, and over the 4th of July weekend, we hit 16 or 17 parades. I had a hard time keeping up with the guy, and I'm 25 years younger than him.
He doesn't sleep.
It's amazing. It really is, and I fully believe he will probably run for another term, and then will be the longest-serving governor in the history of the nation, which would be really amazing. Let's move on to education reform, because this is a heated discussion. Brad, can you kind of touch on what has gone down in the Capitol this week?
Well, I'd rather why don't you let the House members, because that was a
Jake,
House
go ahead.
member.
We were talking about this before the show.
The first thing I would say would start with the Board of Regents with their budget. We gave them the 2.6%. So the deal was we gave them 2.6%, which is basically inflation. They will not raise tuition. Then they also asked for $40 million for tuition set aside. We said you get zero because we're not going to reward bad behavior. And I'm on the education appropriations budget, so I know it's pretty well.
Now, explain for people who don't know tuition set aside.
So I just graduated. Most of you guys know that I'm younger. Every time I paid my tuition, 20% of my tuition would go to somebody else that can't afford it.
Right.
Even though I'm still paying for my own because I with loans and everything else and working. So 20% was set aside to pay for somebody else to go to school. So the Des Moines Register actually did something good for once and discovered this and found out about this. And so obviously people were very upset that their money's going to somebody else.
And this was just last year where we found out about this. And I know, Brad, you were not happy at all about that.
Scott Recker and I worked on this.
Yeah.
So what they're doing, so they go, okay, we're going to stop doing this practice. Hopefully, we have to give us the $40 million to make up for it. We're like, why were we going to give you $40 million? So they came back to us and they go, well, how about we give you match dollar for dollar? I go, well, it's taxpayer dollar for every taxpayer dollar. That doesn't really make any sense. So we said, no again. You get the 2.6% inflation, figure the rest out. Go talk to your donors, come back to us, we'll talk about something else later. So we gave them zero. The Senate Democrats gave them, of course, the $40 million they asked for their bad behavior. Unbelievable. So then we actually, Senator Cornbach, when we were doing education reform, said on the House floor, or the Senate floor, excuse me, that for education reform to happen, he wants 4% for both next year. Wednesday morning, we decided that we want our policy. We have 6 amendments to our Governor Branson's education policy to help out homeschoolers, private schools, plans that you can opt in and out of this plan, helps out. So we gave them, we walked in, the education and probes, and we said, Senator Cornbach, we'll give you the 4%. You have to use all of our language, though, and you can't tamper the language. And we walked out. You guys should have seen his face. He's like, well, and he didn't say a word. He goes, we have to talk about this. For the next 2 hours, he just stormed around trying to figure out what he was going to do because we gave him what they asked for. If you give us what we asked for, and now the ball's in their court.
You compromised basically and agreed.
I know it's a dirty word, but
right. But this is what the school districts have been pushing for. They want to know how much the allowable growth is going to be. Originally, the House had offered 2%. You agreed to go up to 4% for this coming year and the next year. So you gave them exactly what they wanted. And Senator Cornbach from Ames, who I believe is also an Iowa State professor, you gave him what he wanted, and that still wasn't good enough.
No, now he's going to. He cannot, because it's in conference committee, he cannot come back and ask for more. That's something that's not in the bill already. So he can't do like 5-6% because it's not in the bill already. So I don't know what he's going to ask for that he hasn't already gotten, because we had our language, and he's going to, of course, say we hate kids in schools, and because we're Republicans.
And puppies
old people, and we're going to throw them on the streets. Yeah, that's what we do as Republicans. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Just side note about Senator Cornbach, go to rateyourprofessor.com and type his name in, and you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, I understand. It's pretty low score.
He had a 1%.
Wow.
I want to say that the senator has sent a letter out to all the superintendents across the state of Iowa with misinformation about our proposal, and that he mischaracterizes early childhood development programs and the way that we pay for those as a removal, and he characterizes our offer as 1% less than it actually is. It's confused the issue with superintendents and with school boards. I think it's a disingenuous attempt, and I think that it shows that they're on the defense, and rightfully they are. But we really owe this to the school boards, to the superintendents, to the parents, that these schools can operate in these communities, that this is the biggest industry. This is what's going on. Every one of us wants our kids to be educated, have a better opportunity than we've had growing up. Let's help this education. Let's get this passed.
Representative Lane, this is a question I asked of all newcomers. Jake was on the show a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, with you being a fellow freshman, although not quite the same freshman age as Mr. Heifel over there, your time in the legislature for the past few months, Has it been everything you hoped and thought it would be, or has it been the most frustrating experience of your entire life?
No, it's a good process. You have to realize that there's 3 CEOs here. There's the House leadership, there's the Senate leadership, and there's the governor. So if you're used to running a business and you think, okay, well, everything comes to one person, and finally there's one person that's going to make a decision, and we're going to drive that decision home, and everybody's going to be on board with it. It just doesn't work that way. The big surprise is how long legislation takes to get done, because we do it with transparency, in full view of the public. Every word that's uttered is available online, over the air, on closed-circuit TV. You can come and see it every day. You can visit with us. You can be part of this bill-making process. You can weigh in on this, and that's why it takes a long time. But I want to emphasize that that's why Iowa is one of the better-run states in the country, and all you have to do is take a look to the east to see how not to do it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're able to represent your constituents effectively in the House?
Absolutely. I'm given every chance to bring their comments and their thoughts aggregately as well as individually. If someone has a particular problem, we can address that. It's the process is very much open and works that way.
Awesome.
Senator Zahn, is steering back to education. Of course, I know you would like to abolish the Iowa Department of Education, but looking at the compromise that the House Republicans offered this week, they basically said, we'll give you the 4% allowable growth for 2 years if you go along with our reforms. The reaction of the Senate, obviously, Senator Cornbach.
Well, I can only speak for myself rather than my colleagues on this. I think there's a frustration amongst all of us that more money thrown to education is not going to increase student performance.
Right.
To me, I'm disappointed in what has been offered. But, you know, I did offer an amendment this last week that it's a softer shutting down the Department of Education on the Senate bill, or the Senate bill that was sent over to the House. And that was just that, listen, you got 5 years to get your act together. There's certain performance standards that I expect you to have, and if you don't, the governor forms a committee of businessmen, small, medium, and large, and a teacher and some other people that I think is really important to say what we need to do with education. But I just think it's unfortunate. I've been asked, would I support this bill if it comes over? I will not support this bill because there's some components of the House bill definitely that I like more so than the Senate Democrats bill. But it still is throwing more money to education. And secondly, it will not do anything to increase student performance. And bottom line, that's what we need to do. We're not having any conversations about curriculum or teaching methods till we start attacking those two problems. And people are starting to be aware about the problems that there is with core curriculum. I'm starting to get emails on that. There's been some national stories on that. When we voted for that several years ago, it was tried in the state of Washington, and it was broken then, and it's still broken now. Of course, now we have a national Common Core.
Jake,
and I'll also tell you one thing, is that I think this will help. Do I think it's the end solution? Absolutely not. Brad and John and I all represent districts that we have students that we don't pay for on-time funding because we're growing so fast. So that's why we really need allowable growth for our schools, because we're actually in debt, just like John's district is and in my district. But I think we could do a lot of things with private schools, and school choice is the number one issue we need to get to. But every time we bring it up, the Democrats say, why would you ever want to send a kid to a private school? Because they perform better every time. And they always say when they want to help out the poor, is it better to go to Johnston or you go Des Moines, whatever, Northeast, whatever you want to call it. You want to come to Johnston, you want to come to Aiken, you want to come to the better school. So, or Dallas Center Grange for that matter, they're great schools. So I would say, giving that kid the opportunity to come over here, or maybe Dowling, I don't care what school it is, come here, give them an opportunity instead of stop making them go there because their parents live there. It's way better to have school choice than anything else.
I agree 100%. I had the opportunity to see Milton Freeman's last speech at an ALEC convention in San Francisco, and the question was asked to him, what do we need to do to improve school performance and education in the United States? He said there's only one way you could do it, and that's to give parents school choice.
Okay. You mentioned, we'll get back to education in a moment, but you mentioned ALEC, and that is a dirty word. That's like the boogeyman to liberals all of a sudden. Can you explain what ALEC is?
Well, it's an exchange of ideas. I've been to that convention many, many times. And really what people are not missing, I wish someone would go in there with a camera and keep track of what goes on in regards to those conventions, is that you really hear both sides. I recall the argument on global warming. We had two professors that were supposedly known scientists in the United States on global warming, and the two couldn't agree. But I think it's really unfortunate. This is an organization no different than some of the Democratic organizations and think tanks, and the fact is
which they never mentioned that those exist.
Dolores Mertz was the president of the ALEC organization several years ago as a Democrat. So there's a lot of Democrats that attend it. It is more of a conservative think tank, mostly from a budgetary. I've never, ever heard anything brought up about social issues at these conventions. And so I think it's a great opportunity. I think we should all have the freedom to go where we want to go.
Yeah, it's the liberal bloggers and whatnot. They think ALEC is this horrible organization. I want to mention this in relation to the education reform plan that the House is offering. The Iowa Association of School Boards, with the School Administrators of Iowa and the Urban Education Network, have lent support to the proposal that you guys offered with the 4% allowable growth for the next 2 years and the reforms that you mentioned. So it seems like their popular opinion is kind of moving toward your side and away from what the Senate Democrats seem to be offering.
The first few weeks, I helped out the governor a lot with the education bill. I've helped him out a lot. He even told me, Jake, this is a stepping stone. We need to get back in the right direction. So talked to him about that, but he got every business on board. You should see the people that are behind the education plan that we did. Pioneer, John Deere, Hy-Vee, every business that's in my district or West Des Moines around here, they're all on board. So that's one other thing. He did a great job on having that on. And then the only people that were against it were the teachers unions and ASME. The two groups that were against our bill, those only two groups, that shows you all they want is the money with no curriculum, with no everything else. We took out core curriculum in our budget. The money runs out in the second year of our budget. So then it just kind of dies when you have no money.
Right.
So we did that in our budget as well. I'm kind of proud of that. I think what else we did, but things like that, we're almost getting there, but not quite. We're obviously not there yet.
Well, you have a little bit of Dillon's rules in there too. The school boards would like that because it gives them a little bit more freedom to make choices what's best in their district.
And we have accountability. We have career ladders. There's a lot of new components to this that I do think will help in our education performance, and I think that it'll help our school districts.
So prognostication time, what do you think is going to happen with education reform? Is anything going to get accomplished this legislative session? We'll start with you, Representative Landon. Just
Yes.
a prediction.
I think that we'll get education taken care of here, and I think it'll happen pretty quick.
Okay.
I think the pressure is going to come from the school boards, the administrators joining us with this, that we have to move this issue forward. This is why we serve. This is why we're here. Let's get this done. This is a good bill. What is their proposal? What's wrong with our proposal?
Yeah. Senator Zahn, I know you're not happy with all the components.
Yes, it's going to happen. Everybody's going to celebrate. All the school boards and everybody get their money. More money, more money. I'm not going to call it education reform because it's not education reform. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to John or Jake, but it's a more money bill. They're going to get their money. When you go through the art of negotiation, I would assume they would have not said 4. I would have said 3 and then worked my way. Worked your way up, but I'm not in that position. I understand what their intent was to say all or nothing, but I don't think they'll get their money, and they'll probably get some more.
Speaker Paulson came to our Wednesday caucus. He says we're not moving. This is it. If they want to take out our language, we have about 7 or 8 homeschoolers in our caucus, and it's very important to them. They're sick and tired of reporting to the government what they're teaching. Yep. Speaker Paulson gave the best example ever. He goes, guys. Every year they want me to check in with my superintendent because he homeschools all 4 of his kids. He's on his last 2 right now. He goes, I send back after the 16-page pack. I said, we're doing math and stuff. And I send it back. I don't really care what they think of how I'm raising my kids, how I want to raise my kids. So right now in our plan, we'll get rid of that. You don't need to check in with somebody else how you raise your own kids. That's a big thing in ours. It's big. A lot of our rural caucus members have private schools that they go to, St. Edmunds or homeschool. They're thrilled because these homeschool things are very important to them, and I will support them all the way through. Even though I was never homeschooled, but I will support them all the way through. And I do believe that some of that will help out our rural caucus. So it's a compromise to get through. They take that out, they get nothing. So
Those choices are a very important component of our education bill, and it will not move forward in our chamber without them.
If they don't have that homeschool stuff, the bill's dead. They'll get zero this year.
Well, clearly, it's about more than just the money, or else we'd be done with it, right? I mean, we've proved that out now for the Democrats.
Well, we'll see. We've offered the money they've
yeah,
asked for.
Yeah,
it's all about the money for the Democrats. They even admitted it. They were behind the scene like, they just need the more money. No, you're not getting the money without this, and that's fine. We'll have to wait another year. That's okay. It'll make them look terrible because the ball's in their court now.
Sounds like traffic cams.
So we got 2 minutes left. I'm just curious. How are your baseball teams doing?
I'm a Cubs fan, so terrible as usual. But I'm gonna go to the Iowa Cubs game tomorrow, opening season, opening day.
Sounds good.
Cardinals, they're playing pretty good, so I'm happy about that.
Ankeny's playing great baseball.
Kevin, who's your team?
That would be the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are working on their 21st consecutive losing season.
Okay, well,
the longest losing skid in sports history.
Well, I'm a New York Mets fan, and we continued our streak of being the winningest baseball team on opening day of all of Major League Baseball. Anyway, that's as long as it lasts. I think we're below 500 already. So, anyway, I think we're done for today.
I think that's a good note to end on.
You've been listening to the Iowa Legislative Hour, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. Kevin, thank you so much for hosting and for letting me sit here and talk with no camera on me. You're getting the camera and I'm doing the talking.
It's good to hear from you again.
It's excellent. All right. Well, listen, you all have a good week, and we'll be back again next week.
Thanks, guys.